Africa. So major routes are expected to get busy as holidaymakers are making their way back to their places of work after the long weekend. The Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will be interacting with motorists returning from Easter holidays this morning. Chikunga is also expected to brief the media on her reflection on road safety so far. During holidays, South Africa always experiences a high number of fatalities on the road. We're asking, is there any relationship between holidays and bad driver behavior? Well, to weigh in on this and how South Africans behave on the roads, we are joined by a spokesperson of the Automobile Association, Layton Beard. Layton, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We had a tough start, I think, to the long weekend, certainly with that accident in Mokopane that took 45 people in that bus accident. But are you expecting that the numbers will look a little bit, I suppose, better this year?
Yeah, it's always a tough call and very difficult to speculate. I think when you start off with a crash that claims 45 lives, and obviously our condolences to the families of those involved. It's very difficult to speculate, but we're looking at around 252, which was the number last year. It could be very close to that. I think we always expect the worst because this is a time when obviously there are more cars on the road, and when there is more traffic, you generally find that there are more crashes and that sadly there are more fatalities. Yeah.
What is it that happens particularly during public holidays? So when we do have a long weekend, and essentially what I'm asking is, what are the worst habits that South Africans have on the roads? Obviously we see those peak around times like this. But I see a report that says one of our biggest problems is speeding.
Yeah, it is speeding, it's distracted driving, it's drunk driving, it's driver behavior in the sense of not obeying the rules of the road, overtaking on solid white lines, overtaking on blind risers, not wearing seat belts, obviously not resting enough and therefore driving fatigued or tired, not driving in roadworthy enough vehicles. There are, a number of reasons, and those are just the human behaviors. Then you look at issues such as, road conditions. What are the roads like that people are driving on? Are they properly lit at night? Are the road surfaces in a good condition? And then environmental factors such as, was it raining very heavily? And if it was, did people have proper, windscreen wipers on their vehicles? So there are a number of reasons. The problem that I think we have in South Africa is, and you mentioned it in your intro, do we have, different driving behavior over these periods than at the rest of the year? And is it kind of exacerbated at this time? And the answer to that is it is exacerbated. And the reason it's exacerbated is because for, 47 weeks of the year, we have bad driver behavior in South Africa that does not get policed properly. There's not proper traffic law enforcement of road offences throughout the year. Yet we expect there to be this miraculous change in driver behavior over Easter and at the end of the year. For 5 weeks of the year, we have intensive campaigns. And unfortunately, those intensive campaigns are not going to work when for the rest of the year people can drive like they want to with impunity. So it is a huge problem in South Africa. The death toll in our country is a national crisis, according to the AA, and more needs to be done to improve that situation. Simply having these intensive campaigns which are very visible and where there's a lot of people and the media and everybody sees that it's intensive over these periods is not going to do it. It needs to be something that is sustained every single day of the year, not just, as I said, at these very special times.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about police visibility on the roads during these times, because what we do as well at the end of these periods is we count how many cars have been impounded. And one wonders if, those numbers would look different or perhaps would be steady if we're seeing the same amount of impoundments throughout the year. But is that a capacity issue? I mean, let's talk about what we need to be doing then from a law enforcement point of view.
Yeah, it's 100% a capacity issue, and not only human capacity, but resource capacity. In 2019, a committee established by the government, by the Department of Transport, made several recommendations. And one or two of the top recommendations was We need a professional traffic law enforcement environment. We need double the amount of traffic law enforcers that we currently have. And we need to ensure that they are resourced properly with all the equipment that they need to perform their functions correctly. So yes, it's 100% a capacity problem. And again, and I agree with your point. If we are going to have, sustained traffic law enforcement throughout the year, we probably would not see the level of crashes and fatalities over these specific times of the year. They may be reduced, and I think that's what we're all aiming for. So 100% capacity, and unless we get that right, unfortunately, the numbers that we see over these very specific times are just going to continue into the future. Yeah.
Let's of course continue to remind people that they need to be safe on the roads. But I think it would be unfair of me to have you on AM Report and not ask you about this issue. On Wednesday, we are expecting another petrol price increase. I mean, goodness, I'm even thinking of what to ask you. Do I ask you, why it's happening? How do people even prepare themselves for this financially?
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a very difficult thing to talk about. When you look at the pricing of petrol specifically, that's really got to do with international product prices that are higher. And we're also looking at a weakness of the rand over the period of March that's contributing somewhat to this increase in petrol prices. Fortunately, diesel is coming down, which is a good news for all consumers. A big spike in that price is going to lead to a knock-on effect down the road. But people who rely on petrol are in for a tough ride. We know that wages and salaries are not keeping pace with these types of increases. You mentioned that there are other increases in the pipeline as well. We know that municipal rates and taxes are going up. Public transport rates will probably go up as well. So there are a number of things that consumers are battling with at the moment. And it's, unfortunately, the only thing you can say is tighten your belts. But for many people, that belt has been tightened so far, there's not much room left. There aren't enough notches to tighten it any further. So it's going to be a question of what do I prioritize and what do I have to let go. So very, very poor situation for many, many people. It's a difficult time, and I think people are absolutely feeling it, Nalini.
I also think if there's anything that could possibly motivate us to drive better on the roads, it's actually realizing that responsible driving can actually lead to you spending less on the petrol on the petrol tank, correct?
Correct, 100%. I mean, if your car's in a good mechanical condition, if your tires are inflated according to the manufacturer's specifications, if your engine has been maintained and serviced properly, if your wheels are aligned, these are the types of things that do add to a better driving experience from a fuel economy point of view. Driving at a steady speed, not accelerating, avoiding stop-start traffic jams. These are the types of things that are obviously going to assist you in terms of dealing better with your fuel price. Many people are turning to public transport. It's a problem in South Africa because we don't have reliable, safe, affordable public transport in all areas. But where it is available and it is going to be cheaper, that is something that people can consider. Carpooling is something else that is beginning to take off in a very big way. Obviously, if people do that, they just need to discuss that with their insurers. But there are ways that people are getting around this. Not using your vehicle when you don't have to. Is there a short enough trip that you can walk instead of using your car? It stands to reason, obviously, that the less you use your vehicle, the more fuel you're going to save. This is also leading to people having these negotiations and discussions with their employers about, can we work from home maybe 2 or 3 days a week and thereby kind of alleviate this fuel price problem we have. So there are ways that people are being innovative, and it is something that people should consider. And going forward, I think we're going to see more of this innovation as people struggle even more with these rising costs that we face with, almost on a monthly basis now.
Yeah. It's also really interesting that when we talk about the petrol price, you almost have to have a discussion around, geopolitics on a global level as well, right? I mean, you've got at the moment OPEC drawing down on its inventory and production. You've got the Russia-Ukraine tension. And so are we going to see more of this as those tensions continue globally, in your view? And is that something we need to be keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, you absolutely need to keep a close eye on it. I think every South African should be aware that we are not isolated, we are not an island, and we are impacted by these global developments in one way or another. What happens 5,000 kilometers away in another country could have major implications for people, at their local filling stations. So it is absolutely something that is impacting. Local developments obviously impact on the value of the rand, and the way that our economy is run is going to impact on the value of the rand against the US dollar, which is one of the factors that determines our local price. But yes, these geopolitical events you're talking about absolutely impact on what happens locally. Is that going to continue? I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball. I think when we're looking at trends and we're looking at what's happening in other parts of the country, there are no easy answers to those questions. There are no easy solutions. And I know in many of those big geopolitical events, there are people that are working to find solutions, but it's not something that is going to happen overnight. So I think definitely in the short term, we will probably still see that happening, and we will still see that impact on the local fuel price. For how long that is going to last, I don't know, but I think prepare yourselves now just to make sure. And if the tide turns and there is positive news in terms of a decrease, at least you will have that little bit extra in your budget that you have bargained for that you may not need.
Yeah, we'll of course get that announcement on Wednesday to find out just how much the petrol price is going to be going up. It is expected to go up around 35 cents per litre for both fuel types, but we'll get the confirmation, of course, on Wednesday. Layton, always a pleasure chatting to you, and thank you so much for giving us your time. Layton Beard is, of course, the spokesperson of the Automobile Association.